Hello, I am Sean Sands from Gamers with Jobs, back for more Factorio in Conversation. This time we are going to be covering spoilers. Now, we're not actually going to cover any spoilers, so don't worry about that. But I'm going to try and convince you that you should stop caring about spoilers and that your life will be better if you do. So good luck to me on that, I am sure. And we'll take that go down that path in just a second. But first, you may remember from last episode. Last episode ended what I would call inauspiciously, with the biters coming and just chomping all my face right off. I've taken a little time, had to reload a previous save, come back, implemented a new strategy to deal with that I am in the short term calling just wall everything the hell up. So I have a dozen, maybe, turrets, probably more than a dozen. And I'm not joking. The entire thing is now walled up with turret defenses all the way around it. Yes, all the way up through here. Had this whole little tiny factory just pumping out wall pieces. Still going to for a bit. Actually, I really probably can take it down soon, but not yet. So lots and lots of walls. I've probably used, who knows, 100, 200 walls, I would say, easily. I've also, as a result, that was a time-consuming process. So we've made it through a lot of research. And that's fine. I haven't really done anything with it yet, but I've just been plowing through optics and lots of upgrades from military. I've got gun turret damage up to 3. I've got bullet damage up to 3 or something like that too. Have I got combat drones? I think I have combat drones. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. No, combat drones, combat robotics. We're going to get that in an episode or two here. We're going to go out there and see. Here they come. And blow all these guys. I won't even get there before they're all dead. Yep, just wiped out. Biting at the walls a little bit, but only a tiny bit. All right. What is going on here? Why aren't we... Did I just use a bunch of it? Maybe I should add another electric mining drill up there. I've also, not up here that you can tell, but I have... upgraded. Oh, they're like little fish in there or something. Check that out. I'd never noticed that before. I'm not going down there. Let's see. We'll put another mining drill right here. There we go. Okay. And we will wire it up. Got a ton of medium electric poles now, which is helpful. And that's what I was going to point out, is that I also did some, we'll call it, I guess, house cleaning maybe. We also have doubled our power output. So I'll show you some of that down here real quick. We did, even though we had to reload, we did get our increased mining capacity going pretty decently. I redid the whole... science area down here, so it feels cleaner to me, and just it's not nearly as spaghetti-ish, and it feels like it flows, and its output is really, really solid. I'm happy with that. I did also obviously automate a bunch of these things, and like I said, the poles, and also some pipe, which is what we're going to use this episode. So while we talk about spoilers, we are going to get underway with our, what do you call it? Oil. We're going to start setting up our oil factories, which I think our oil is up here. I'm not sure where I'm going to put the oil factories themselves, but we have a substantial amount of oil in the area. And I think, where is that? Yeah, here it is. Cool. So what is the yield? 236, awesome. 309, awesome. 267, these are high yield areas. Excellent. So we'll need some, what do you call them? Pumping stations. So we're going to need a bunch of iron. All right. While we start to get that set up, let's go ahead and dive into the topic. So it's going to be a hard sell, but I've been watching Game of Thrones lately. And again, I can't stress enough, I'm not going to spoil anything in this episode. So that's not the point of this. And even though I am going to kind of try and convince you, or at least make the case that spoilers are not a bad thing, I have to just be clear from the start that I mean that from the perspective of making your own individual. I just wanted to watch them get blown up. Making your own individual decisions, right? I think they're, for as frustrating, and it can be frustrating, particularly if you get to a point where it's just not as big a deal for you, to not be able to talk about a favorite show on, Twitter and, at the office or something like that. You have a responsibility to try and be respectful of other people's decisions, right? Not everybody, is, even if you are the kind of person who's like, I don't really care about spoilers, that doesn't change the kind of social contract that spoilers are a thing, and they are things that people get passionate about. It's, it is a way of... It's not about the consuming of media. It's as much as it is just about, kind of having a personal thing that they enjoy, right? There's it's so easy to mess up something that is important to somebody else just because you don't care about it, which is kind of a crappy way to be, in my opinion. Again, not if it's accidental or I think there are situations where people screw up without any kind of malice, but while that can be forgivable, I think there is a culpability to just being, if you're just kind of oblivious, like if that accidental decision is not because you didn't realize something was a spoiler, or you didn't, you weren't thinking about it that way, and instead you've impacted a person's enjoyment of a thing that they care enough about to care about spoilers, just because you didn't clue into the system, or you weren't paying attention, or just it's like I don't care. It's not a spoiler to me, so why I'm not going to care what is or isn't a spoiler to everybody else. Don't be that guy. Don't ever be that guy. That guy's the worst. Just is. Because being conscientious and thoughtful of others is just, that's another thing I will get on at some point, because I don't know why it's become sort of, I want to say almost like a point of pride for people who are like, I don't think about not even I don't think about anybody but myself, but I don't compromise, and I here's how I live my life, and you better just get used to it. Bleh. I just, no thank you. Don't want any part of that kind of mentality. I don't find it useful. I don't find it important. I'll get on that high horse at another time, though. This is about spoilers. So that caveat is an important one, that I am not talking about whether you can and or should compromise somebody else's enjoyment of a thing that they like. What I am saying is you can make decisions about how you interact with those things. And my feeling is, and it is just that. It is my feeling on the matter, is that spoilers, and worrying about spoilers and kind of being, particularly the more obsessed you get with them, the more you feel like you're impacted by them. I feel like that diminishes the enjoyment of a thing. So why? Why do I think that? One, think about a movie you love that has a great twist in it. For me, it's The Usual Suspects. Like the first, and I agree. The first time I watched The Usual Suspects, there's a moment in that movie that really startles you and surprises you, and it's very, very interesting. Again, trying very hard not to spoil anything. And it was a movie that I did not see the kind of the twist it had coming for me. I didn't see it coming. And so to be able to kind of experience that moment was really cool. And it's certainly not arguing that it isn't. The thing is, I can still go back and watch that movie, knowing the twist, knowing the setup, knowing everything that's going into it. And I don't feel like I'm having any kind of compromised experience. Now, I realize you can make the point that a first viewing and a second viewing are not the same thing. I think I think that's a totally valid point to make. What did I do here? Where am I going to put this thing? Well, I'm thinking about that. Let's see. What else do I need? I'm going to need some chemical plants and an oil refinery. That's what I need next. So I need to get some. I'm going to just knock this one out. And I think we're pretty good on walls now. Yeah. So let's let some stone brick get built in. Is that powered? Yeah. Put that there. So we'll let that kind of collect. And we'll still build some walls, but not only walls. I do understand the difference between a first viewing and a second viewing. I'm not arguing that isn't a different experience. But at the same time, I think that what made the first viewing great was 96% a great story and really well acted and something that I was enjoying for a variety of reasons. And that the spoiler, the twist, the whatever is sort of incidental. It can be a cool moment. I'm not arguing it can't be a cool moment. But I also find that being obsessed with a spoiler, being aware of it, or kind of, watching for the trick of the thing also gets really distracting and in many ways, for me, compromises my sense of the thing that I'm viewing too. It actually, being aware either that there is a spoiler or to be trained by the way kind of media works now, to be sort of always on the lookout for one, has begun to compromise. I'm building some room here for some like refineries and stuff, by the way. Has begun to compromise. Be on this side when that closes up. Good idea. My enjoyment of things, because now I'm just sort of trained to watch for them. And so I'm not thinking about the fact that I'm enjoying the art direction and the cinematography and the way this actor and this actor are interacting in really cool ways. What I'm looking for is what's the twist? What's the thing I'm not expecting? When's the jump scare coming? When is the whatever going to happen that's supposed to happen that's cool? And that sort of mentality is actually the reason I stopped worrying about spoilers and made a decision. Well, that and, at some point I read a thing that said, a research study done by some university somewhere that made the argument that people who watch a movie get the exact same degree of enjoyment and pleasure out of that movie if they've had the outcome spoiled for them as those who don't. Or in fact, in many cases, enjoy it more, which was a really cool, it's a really challenging idea. Because I used to be the same way. I don't want to be spoiled. It's going to be great. I can't wait to see, whatever this thing is that I'm excited about and everybody's excited about. I lived that life that I think most movie-going people tend to live. Did I use up all my pipe? There's no way I used up 50. Fine. I'll go get some more. But having now given up on spoilers, and I genuinely have, I've happily to the point where I will almost actively spoil a thing for myself to figure out, to have a better sense of whether that's a thing I'm interested in. Breaking Bad is a great example. Again, can't stress not spoiling anything. And, that's not the point of this. That's not what I'm going to be doing. But the final episode happened of Breaking Bad a few years back, and I'd watched a season or two, and kind of drifted off. That second season just kind of lagged for me. It didn't really connect with me. And this was right when I was sort of at the start of this experiment of, can I spoil things and it's just as good? So I went in and, everybody online was talking about this thing, this cool thing that had, happened. And again, it's not the last episode or the last season or whatever. It's just, they were talking about watching the show that I was familiar enough with to understand the implications of the different things I would choose to read eventually. But hadn't watched the show, I didn't have that experience anymore. And so it really was a situation where I made a decision like, I want to know what happened. I want to see if that generates interest for me again. So I went and I spoiled the whole show for myself. And I found at the end of having done it that, again, the spoiler, the surprise or the twists or whatever were just so incidental to what I cared about for the show one way or another, right? It didn't move the needle for me. I found myself neither more interested in watching or less interested in watching. It didn't factor into the whole way I was perceiving it. And as a result, like, I still haven't gone back and watched it, but that's not because I know the end of it. It's just because I will at some point. But I have gone back and watched things that I've actively spoiled for myself. And Game of Thrones, which is originally what started this conversation, is sort of the quintessential TV show right now around which people are obsessively concerned about spoilers. All the more so this season because the TV version has now sort of outstripped the book version. So for a long time, nope, that's not where that, yeah, that is where that goes. For a long time, it was, I hope the book people don't spoil my episode of Game of Thrones. And now this season, watching the show is essentially a spoiler for the book. Things are happening that have not happened in those books yet. And so people are sort of confronted with this new dilemma of spoiler. Like, do I watch this show? And people who are, and it becomes even trickier because there are people who are definitely like, not interested in watching the show now because they want to save it for the books. They want that to be the primary experience. Don't want to have anything spoiled. And of course, like, Game of Thrones is the most popular TV show in the world. It is the topic of every conversation out there. And there is no opportunity for people who are trying not to be spoiled to compromise that, nor should they. I mean, I guess that's part of my concern about spoilers. Is it the other side of it? The other reason it just, I feel like, makes life worse across the board to be worried about and obsessed with them is because it compromises the interactivity and the engagement with other people on this thing that I'm interested in. And I miss that. I want to be engaged and be able to have a conversation with somebody and even, have that be, maybe this person knows about the show I'm watching or doesn't and is interested. And like, if we were all less interested in spoilers, then we could just we could have more interesting, intelligent, natural conversations, rather than kind of compromising, always being on sort of the lookout for having compromised somebody's experience of a show. Again, I can't stress enough. That's just the reality of playing in the space these days. I get that. And this is not an argument that, that people should or shouldn't be, that people shouldn't be as conscious as they sort of always, as they're expected to be about negatively impacting somebody else's experience. And not an excuse to just say, oh, well, I don't care about spoilers anymore, therefore you shouldn't. It's not acceptable. That's clearly not okay. And I would definitely not be advocating that. But what I have found as a result, are these not working? Yeah, I want them to do that. So copy, paste, and paste. Cool. What I've found in my own personal experience is that time and again, I'm just to the point now where I will almost actively spoil myself on a show, or a game or anything. Like the new Star Wars was a great example. Just was out there reading whatever, reading people's impressions after the movie, going into, forum posts of don't look unless you've seen the movie, and just being like, that's not how I operate. Like, tell me what happens in the movie. Let me, I partly one because I find that the more I know about a thing, the more I know whether I'm going to like that thing. The intensity of the spoiler is so often just a setup for disappointment for people. I find, that it encourages you to build up an artificiality in your own head, that reality often completely fails to live up to. And that's, I hate seeing that. I hate feeling that thing. Like, the more I know, and this is true of almost everything out there, right? The more you know about a thing, the more equipped you are to make a decision about it, in a variety of ways. So, do I want to go see this movie, right? Then tell me everything about it. Tell me, let me know, how it ends. Go ahead and read the last page to me, because what is going to intrigue me about that movie or about that game, if it's nothing but, the pure whodunit, then it's probably not for me. I guess here's what I would say. You don't have to, and shouldn't, and you don't have to change it all, obviously. But if you're interested, if this idea intrigues you in the least, of just letting it go, right? Don't sing the song. I don't want to hear that. But two, just try it. Pick something you don't have a huge investment in, or that you're only sort of secondarily interested in. Like whether it's an upcoming movie or a book series that you've always been kind of curious about. And that's sort of why I tried it out on Breaking Bad, which honestly, I got more enjoyment out of reading everybody's interpretation. Like, people say cool stuff, and not allowing yourself to participate in that conversation, it was so self-limiting to me. And that's just me personally. Again, I can't speak for you, but what I often found was what I found certainly in the case of Breaking Bad, by not worrying about what I did or didn't know about the outcomes or the plot twist or any, whatever happens. Like, just getting to kind of be part of the conversation, hear what people are saying, and listen to their takes on different things, and the way they interpreted different components of the entire show. Well, nope, don't chase me. Come up here. Your friend, the turret. They're not going to. Okay, well, we're going to have to probably going to have to move those turrets down a bit. Looks like they're kind of trying to break in at a lower point. So let's move those turrets down here, I guess. Could just be because I was there, but I suspect as the center of gravity for the pollution changes, they're probably going to change their attack patterns too. I assume that's what's going on. Like, just pick a thing. Pick a low risk thing. Whether it's an upcoming show, maybe it's the next episode of Game of Thrones, or maybe it's, an upcoming episode of some show that, you're going to miss for a few days. Try it. See what happens. Like, open yourself up to the possibility that not having to kind of, and when you're evaluating, think of it kind of across the board, because I think that's the important thing. I think, when people are nervous about this idea of I can't have the thing spoiled, they are thinking strictly in terms of the show that they're watching and the media they're experiencing. And I think you can think about it bigger, right? I think consider the lack of stress you will possibly feel by not having to worry about whether you've spoiled a thing or not spoiled a thing. Think about the the kind of freedom that may or may not happen, depending, because you aren't finding yourself, ooh, let's bring it over here. I like that. And then maybe right here, that will give us some more space to work with. Of not having to worry about, that freedom of not having to worry about whether somebody will say the wrong thing. And, you're just kind of always on guard and always nervous about, having this moment that's really, maybe not as important as it has seemed, compromised for you. Notice that, getting to experience something at the same time, or kind of enjoy the enthusiasm that somebody else has, even if you haven't had that specific experience yet. Notice all of those things if you try it, and you may absolutely know that this is not for you, and I totally respect that. I'm not here to change people if they know who they are, but if it's always been, as it was for me, more a hassle to be worried about spoilers than something that enhanced my enjoyment. If you've always had maybe that kind of, that thing in the back of your head that's suggesting that, maybe try, maybe just take a look. It's what I did. I'm not going to say it's not as big a deal one way or another as like a life-changing experience. I'm not trying to overstate it, but you might find out something kind of new and interesting and cool about yourself, and about the ways that you can experience, media. You might find that you're actually enjoying the shows that I wanted Steel. Steel is the thing I wanted. That you're enjoying shows in a way that, you don't as often get to, for the substance, and more for what they are than kind of what they're trying to manipulate. And to be honest, you may find some shows on the flip side of that where you're like, wow, if you don't have the twist, this just isn't that interesting a show. Which I don't really find to be a bad discovery. I often find that helps me clearly understand which of the things I'm watching are really actually worth my time, and maybe some that it turns out aren't as much worth my time. So yeah, that's it. That's my take on spoilers. I think there are probably people listening to this, maybe not, who would find almost a weird kind of peace in and freedom in not having to worry about it anymore. And so if you think you might be that person, I'll just tell you it worked for me. I kind of love living in a spoiler-free environment. And I know, I know Jeff Kanata, for example, who does a ton of great podcasts. If you don't know who I'm talking about, you should go look him up, because he's fantastic. Dude, I don't think being spoiler guy is ever going to be his thing, nor should it. Like he gets such enjoyment out of the surprises and and that component that no, it's that as much as it is for me, for him to be happy spoiler free, he is the opposite. Having those secrets and those reveals is a thing that he lives for, and you know what, more power to him. I have no problem with that, which is why I say, ultimately none of this is to say that you can be or should be less cautious and thoughtful of other people's experiences, just because you change who you are and what you do. Anyway, we got the basics of this all set up. I think, the bad thing about having this wall, the giant wall, is that it makes it a little trickier to expand, particularly since I plan to expand my sort of mining oil, fuel, sulfuric acid production facilities out this way, maybe down this way. But also notice that we're getting real close to that biter nest out there. We can see just the edge of it. which means it's also probably time next episode to do a little fighting, I guess. And can we see this one up here? Oh yeah, check that out. We got some biter spawners and spitter spawners. We're starting to get spitters. So yeah, we're going to probably make our way up there and do some damage next episode. So yeah, that look forward to, plus whatever topic we dive into. Love to hear your thoughts on spoilers. Are you a person who is, really affected by spoilers? Does it not bother you at all? Have you changed over the years? Love to hear your thoughts as always in the comments. Thank you as always, for joining me for a little Factorio Conversation, and we will see you real soon.